Most people think the goal in life is to feel comfortable, to find a steady job, maintain a predictable routine, and avoid risks that could lead to failure or embarrassment. It sounds logical, even responsible. But what if that very mindset is the reason so many people feel unfulfilled, uninspired, and stuck? What if the comfort you've been taught to chase is the same thing quietly holding you back from everything you truly want? Think about the last time you felt truly alive. Was it while doing something safe and familiar, or was it when you stepped into something uncertain, exciting, maybe even terrifying? Growth doesn't happen when everything is easy. It happens when you challenge yourself, when you're stretched, tested, and forced to rise. Yet most of us avoid those moments like the plague. We convince ourselves that playing it safe is smart, when in reality, it's just fear in disguise. There's a hidden cost to staying comfortable. Dreams slowly fade, passion weakens, confidence shrinks, and what's left is a version of you that settles, not because you aren't capable of more, but because you've grown addicted to the illusion of safety. We all want change, but very few are willing to be uncomfortable long enough to experience it. You weren't born to repeat yesterday. You weren't made to survive. Your soul was wired to expand. But as long as comfort is your compass, you'll continue circling the same path, wondering why you feel stuck. The truth is, nothing new grows in a zone that never changes. And the version of you that's been waiting to come alive, it's not waiting for the perfect time. It's waiting for you to let go of the familiar and finally move. We all crave a life that feels meaningful, exciting, and fulfilling. Deep down, there's a desire to do more, be more, and experience more. But despite that inner drive, most people find themselves stuck in the same routines, repeating the same days, living inside the same limitations. What's even more surprising is that many have no idea why they feel so unmotivated or disconnected from their potential. They assume it's just how life is supposed to be, predictable, manageable, and safe. But there's a deeper reason behind the dissatisfaction, one that is often overlooked or misunderstood. Comfort is something we're taught to pursue from an early age. We're encouraged to find stability, avoid unnecessary risks, and follow the well-trodden path. On the surface, this seems like wise advice. Who doesn't want peace, security, and control? But over time, this pursuit of comfort becomes a trap. It quietly turns into a lifestyle of avoidance of challenge, of growth, of new experiences. What was once a short-term refuge becomes a long-term cage. The irony is that while comfort might make us feel secure in the moment, it often leads to restlessness, boredom, and a sense of being unfulfilled. People stay in jobs that no longer inspire them, relationships that don't nurture them, and mindsets that limit them, not because they're happy, but because they're afraid of failure, of rejection, of uncertainty. And in that fear, they choose familiarity over possibility. But growth doesn't happen inside the familiar. It happens when you step outside of what's known and enter the space where learning, challenge, and real change live. That's where confidence is built. That's where passion is reignited. That's where your true self begins to emerge. This journey isn't about becoming reckless or throwing caution to the wind. It's about becoming honest about where you are, where you want to be, and what's holding you back. It's about recognizing that while your comfort zone might feel good temporarily, it will never lead you to greatness. Real transformation begins the moment you stop settling for what's easy and start choosing what's meaningful, even if it scares you, because the life you dream of doesn't exist inside your comfort zone. It exists just beyond it. The biggest obstacle standing between where you are and where you want to be often isn't lack of talent, resources, or opportunity. It's the invisible barrier of your own comfort zone. Most people live their lives within limits they've accepted without questioning. They follow routines that feel safe, stay in environments that feel predictable, and avoid challenges that might disrupt the familiar. Over time, this way of living feels normal, even responsible, but underneath the surface, something begins to feel off. A quiet frustration builds, a sense that life is passing by without any real growth or excitement. The problem with comfort is that it lulls you into a false sense of security. It convinces you that staying still is safer than moving forward. You tell yourself, it's not the right time, or I'll try later, or maybe I'm just not meant for more. These thoughts aren't just excuses, they become beliefs, and those beliefs shape your actions, or more often, your inaction. You stop trying new things, you avoid taking risks, you settle for good enough even when your heart wants something greater. This challenge shows up in every area of life. In careers, people stay in jobs that drain them because they fear change more than dissatisfaction. In relationships, people tolerate disconnection rather than face uncomfortable conversations. In health, people avoid new habits because old ones feel easier. And the more time that passes, the deeper the comfort zone grows, wrapping itself around your life like a warm, quiet cage. What makes this problem even more dangerous is that it's subtle. It doesn't always feel like a crisis. It feels like a quiet resignation. You may even tell yourself that everything is fine, even though you know deep down that fine isn't enough. The desire for more still burns, but it gets buried under routine, fear, and self-doubt. The real challenge is not the difficulty of change, but the illusion that staying the same is easier. This illusion is powerful. It whispers that trying might lead to failure, but staying put guarantees safety. But that safety comes with a price: missed opportunities, wasted potential, and a version of yourself that never fully awakens. Until you recognize this comfort trap for what it is, you'll continue living beneath your potential, always wondering what could have been if only you dared to step beyond what's familiar. Breaking free from the grip of comfort begins with awareness. You can't change what you don't acknowledge. The first step is recognizing the subtle patterns that keep you stuck. These patterns often appear as routines that offer little growth, excuses that mask fear, and a lifestyle built more on avoiding discomfort than pursuing purpose. Once you start to observe these habits objectively, you gain the power to choose differently. You begin to see that comfort isn't always calm. It can also be a slow form of self-sabotage wrapped in convenience. Growth doesn't demand dramatic leaps. It begins with small, intentional steps that challenge your current identity. You might start by setting a goal that stretches your limits, even slightly. You may say yes to something you'd normally decline out of fear. You may speak up when you'd usually stay silent. These small acts of courage begin to rewire your brain, building new pathways that associate discomfort not with danger, but with development. Another important piece is rethinking your relationship with fear. Fear is often seen as a sign to stop, but in reality, it's a signal that you're on the edge of something meaningful. Most breakthroughs come when you move through fear, not away from it. When you reframe fear as a companion instead of an enemy, you shift from paralysis to progress. Environment also plays a crucial role. Surrounding yourself with people who embrace growth, who challenge norms, and who push themselves beyond limits can inspire you to do the same. The energy around you either fuels your courage or feeds your hesitation. Being in the right environment can accelerate your transformation and make the unfamiliar feel more possible. Ultimately, breaking through the comfort zone is about choosing growth over ease. It's about becoming more committed to your future than you are to your present habits. It's about understanding that the discomfort of growth is temporary, but the regret of inaction can last a lifetime. As you continue to choose discomfort in the service of purpose, you'll begin to notice a shift, not only in what you do, but in who you become. Your world will expand as your limits dissolve, revealing a version of you that was always there, just waiting to be uncovered. There comes a defining moment when the weight of staying the same becomes heavier than the fear of change. It doesn't always arrive with fanfare. Sometimes it's quiet, a conversation that stings, a routine that suddenly feels unbearable, or a simple question that echoes louder than expected. Is this really it? That moment, subtle or dramatic, cracks the illusion of comfort wide open. You start to see your life not as something happening to you, but as something you've quietly settled into. And in that instant, the truth becomes undeniable. You can no longer ignore the gap between who you are and who you could be. This key turning point doesn't eliminate fear, but it gives birth to something more powerful, a refusal to keep living beneath your potential. You stop pretending you're satisfied. You stop numbing the dissatisfaction. You stop shrinking yourself to fit inside a version of life that was never built for your full self. You begin to understand that the cost of not changing is far greater than the risk of change. Courage emerges not as a loud roar, but as a steady voice saying, start now. You take that first uncomfortable step. You sign up, you say no, you say yes, you end what's no longer working. You begin what's been calling to you. That action, no matter how small, becomes a spark. It's not about knowing exactly where the path leads. It's about trusting that movement forward will lead somewhere better than stagnation. In this moment of clarity, you realize the comfort zone wasn't safe. It was stifling. The walls you thought were protecting you were really confining you. And now that you've glimpsed what lies beyond them, there's no going back. This shift in perspective changes everything. You don't just want more, you're ready to become more. This is where the transformation begins, not in perfect conditions or polished plans, but in one powerful decision to stop waiting and start becoming. The comfort zone often feels like a safe haven, a place where things are familiar and risks are minimal. But over time, what feels like security becomes limitation. It restricts not just what you do, but who you become. Staying in that space might shield you from failure, but it also keeps you from growth, from passion, from a life that challenges and excites you. The routines you once found soothing begin to feel suffocating. The predictability you once relied on starts to drain your energy, and slowly you begin to feel disconnected, not just from your goals, but from yourself. What's important to understand is that comfort isn't the enemy, but it should never be the goal. It has its place, a temporary rest, a moment to recharge, but when comfort becomes permanent, it halts progress. Life loses its color, your dreams fade into the background, and your potential remains untapped. You may continue to function, to produce, even to succeed by traditional standards, but deep within, there's a quiet knowing that you're not living fully. Reclaiming your life means embracing discomfort as a necessary part of becoming. It means seeing fear as a sign that you're moving in the right direction. It requires a shift from asking what's the easiest path to what path will help me grow. Every step outside your comfort zone, no matter how small, brings you closer to the life you're meant to live. Each act of courage chips away at the limitations you've unknowingly accepted. You don't need to have it all figured out. You only need to be willing. Willing to question the familiar. Willing to risk temporary discomfort for long-term fulfillment. Willing to stop playing small and start expanding into your full capacity, because the life that truly belongs to you, the one filled with purpose, joy, impact, and deep satisfaction, doesn't exist in the familiar. It lives on the other side of your willingness to stretch, to risk, to grow. This isn't about being fearless. It's about acting in spite of fear. It's about choosing progress over perfection and depth over ease. The moment you stop resisting discomfort and start walking through it is the moment everything begins to change. Your comfort zone is not your home. It's your launching pad. Let it be the place you rise from, not the place you remain. The choice before you right now is simple but powerful. Remain where you are, comfortable but limited, or take the first step toward a fuller, more vibrant life. This moment is your invitation to decide, to move from passivity into action, from hesitation into courage. Growth doesn't come to those who wait for the perfect time or the right conditions. It comes to those who are willing to act despite uncertainty and discomfort. Start by identifying one area in your life where you feel stuck or safe but unsatisfied. Maybe it's your career, a relationship, a creative project, or even your mindset. Now ask yourself, what's one small step I can take today that moves me just a little outside that zone? It doesn't have to be monumental. It could be making a phone call you've been avoiding, enrolling in a course that scares you, sharing your honest feelings with someone, or setting a goal that excites and intimidates you at the same time. The key is movement. Accountability is a powerful force. Share your intention with someone you trust or write it down somewhere visible. When you put your goals into words, you give them life. When you tell others, you build a support system that can encourage you and hold you responsible. Remember, transformation rarely happens in isolation. Surround yourself with people who inspire and challenge you, who push you beyond your comfort and believe in your potential. Track your progress no matter how small. Celebrate every victory. The tiny wins matter just as much as the big leaps. Each time you choose growth over ease, you strengthen your confidence and expand your capacity for more. And when fear or doubt creep in, and they will, remind yourself that these feelings are signals of growth, not reasons to retreat. Above all, be patient and compassionate with yourself. Change is a process, not an event. Some days will feel easier, others harder. The important thing is consistency, showing up, trying, and learning. The life you envision isn't out of reach. It's waiting for you on the other side of discomfort. So take the step today. Choose to lean into the unknown. Choose to trust yourself. Choose to grow. Your future self will thank you for not settling, for daring to live fully, and for embracing the incredible potential that lies beyond your comfort zone.